and welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie. And this week, in honor of National Siblings Day, which is on Sunday, we picked books that feature siblings. So a shout out to my two siblings. I'm the youngest of three, so shout out to my brother and my sister. Jill, how about you?
I am the middle child of four, so hey, all you people that had all the better things. So my first pick is Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. This looks like it was a Read with Jenna book. So, in present-day California, Eleanor Bennett's death leaves behind a puzzling inheritance for her two children, Byron and Benny, a traditional Caribbean black cake made from a family recipe with a long history and a voice recording. In her message, Eleanor shares a tumultuous story about a headstrong young swimmer who escapes her island home under suspicion of murder. The heartbreaking tale Eleanor unfolds, the secrets she still holds back, and the mystery of the long-lost child challenge everything the siblings thought they knew about their lineage and themselves. Can Byron and Benny reclaim their once close relationship, piece through Eleanor's true history, and fulfill her final request to share the black cake when the time is right? So I feel like a lot of my stories are the theme of the parent dying and then the kids kind of going through the stuff. So, but it's good.
My first pick was one of my favorite books that I read. This is Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate, which was published back in 2017. Memphis, 1939, 12-year-old Rill Foss and her four younger siblings live a magical life aboard their family's Mississippi River shanty boat. But when their father must rush their mother to the hospital one stormy night, Rill is left in charge until strangers arrive in force. Wrenched from all that is familiar and thrown into the Tennessee Children's Home Society orphanage, the Foss children are assured that they will soon be returned to their parents, but they quickly realize the dark truth. At the mercy of the facility's cruel director, Rill fights to keep her sisters and brother together in a world of danger and uncertainty. Aiken, South Carolina, present day. Born into wealth and privilege, Avery Stafford seems to have it all. A successful career as a federal prosecutor, a handsome fiancé, and a lavish wedding on the horizon. But when Avery returns home to help her father weather a health crisis, a chance encounter leaves her with uncomfortable questions and compels her to take a journey through her family's long-hidden history on a path that will ultimately lead either to devastation or redemption. It's based on one of America's most notorious real-life scandals in which Georgia Tan, director of a Memphis-based adoption organization, kidnapped and sold poor children to wealthy families all over the country. Lisa Wingate's riveting, wrenching, and ultimately uplifting tale reminds us how, even though the paths we take can lead to many places, the heart never forgets where we belong. So sad, but I love this book.
Yeah, that one's very good. My next one is 50 Words for Rain by Asha Lemmy. This is a debut book, which I enjoy. It's a sweeping, heart-rending coming-of-age novel about a young woman's quest for acceptance in post-World War II Japan. Kyoto, Japan, 1948. A woman knows nothing else. She should know how to be silent. Do not question, do not fight, do not resist. Such is 8-year-old Nori Kamikaze's first lesson. She will not question why her mother abandoned her while with only those final words. She will not fight her confinement to the attic of her grandparents' imperial estate, and she will not resist the scalding chemical bath she receives daily to lighten her shameful skin. The illegitimate child of Japanese aristocrat and her African-American GI lover, Nori is an outsider from birth. Though her grandparents take her in, they do so only to conceal her, fearful of a stain on the royal pedigree that they are desperate to uphold in a changing Japan. Obedient to a fault, Nori accepts her solitary life for what it is, despite her natural intellect and nagging curiosity about what lies outside the attic's walls. But when the chance brings her legitimate older half-brother Akira to the estate that his inheritance and destiny, Nora finds in him the first person who will allow her to question, and the siblings form an unlikely but powerful bond, a bond their formidable grandparents cannot allow and will irrevocably change their lives they were always meant to lead. Because now that Nori has glimpsed a world in which perhaps there's a place for her after all, she's ready to fight to be part of it. A battle that just might cost her everything. So, yeah, a little different.
My second pick is a favorite author of my husband's. Probably most familiar with The Kite Runner by this author, but this is And the Mountains Echoed by Khalid Hosseini, and this was published in 2013. So then, you want a story, and I will tell you one. Afghanistan, 1952. Abdullah and his sister Pari live with their father and stepmother in a small village. Their father Sabur is constantly in search of work, and they struggle together through poverty and brutal winters. To Abdullah and his sister, she's as beautiful and sweet-natured as the fairy for which she was named. She is everything to him. More than a parent, than a brother, Abdullah will do anything for her, even trading his only pair of shoes for a feather for her treasured collection. Each night they sleep together in their cot, their heads touching, their limbs tangled. One day the siblings journey across the desert to Kabul with their father. They have no sense of the fate that waits them there, for the event which unfolds will tear their lives apart. Sometimes a finger must be cut to save the hand. This story crosses generations and continents, moves from Kabul to Paris to San Francisco to the Greek islands. It's filled with profound wisdom, depth, insight, and compassion. This author writes about the bonds that define us and shape our lives, the ways in which we help our loved ones in need, how the choices we make resonate through history, and how we are often surprised by the people closest to us. So, And the Mountains Echoed.
That is a really good author. I like him a lot. So my next one is called The Second Home by Christina Clancy. After a disastrous summer spent at her family's home on Cape Cod when she was 17, Anne Gordon is very happy to never visit Wellfleet again. If only she'd stayed in Wisconsin. She might never have met Anthony Shaw, and she would have held on to the future she'd so carefully planned for herself. Instead, Anne ends up harboring a devastating secret that strains her relationship with her parents, sends her sister Poppy to every corner of the world chasing waves and the next fling, and leaves her adopted brother Michael estranged from the family. Now, 15 years later, her parents have died, and Poppy and Anne are left to decide the fate of the beach house that's been in the Gordon family for generations. For Anne, the once beloved house is forever tainted with bad memories, and while Poppy loves the old salt box on Drummer Cove, owning a house means settling, and she's not sure she's ready to stay in one place. Just when the sisters decide to sell, Michael re-enters their lives with a legitimate claim to a third of the estate. He wants the house, but more than that, he wants to set the record straight about what happened that long ago summer that changed all their lives forever. As the siblings reunite after years apart, their old secrets and lies, longings and losses are pulled to the surface. Is the house the one thing that can bring them together, or will it tear them apart once and for all? So, yeah, another theme.
Siblings and estates, that's a common one in the sibling books too.
Yeah.
Another favorite book of mine, my third pick, is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Jill and I have featured her books many times in Friday Reads. This one goes back a ways. This is published in 2005. Jodi Picoult is widely acclaimed for her keen insights into the hearts and minds of real people. Now she tells the emotionally riveting story of a family torn apart by conflicting needs and a passionate love that triumphs over human weakness. Anna is not sick, but she might as well be. By age 13, she has undergone countless surgeries, transfusions, and shots so that her older sister Kate can somehow fight the leukemia that has plagued her since childhood. The product of pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, Anna was conceived as a bone marrow match for Kate, a life and a role that she has never challenged. Until now. Like most teenagers, Anna is beginning to question who she really is. But unlike most teenagers, she has always been defined in terms of her sister. And so Anna makes a decision that for most would be unthinkable, a decision that will tear her family apart and perhaps fatal consequences for the sister she loves. My Sister's Keeper examines what it means to be a good parent, a good sister, and a good person. Is it morally correct to do whatever it takes to save a child's life, even if that means infringing upon the rights of another child? Is it worth trying to discover who you really are if that quest makes you like yourself less? Should you follow your own heart or let others lead you? Once again, in this book, Jodi Picoult tackles a controversial, real-life subject with grace, wisdom, and sensitivity. Love the book and the movie for this one.
Yeah, that one's really good, too. It's a good sister story because, you know, the moral implications.
Yep. Jodi Picoult is definitely not afraid to tackle
the
tough topics.
I love that about her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my next one is a thriller. Lisa Gardner, right behind you. This is the latest thriller behind Find Her. 8 years ago, Charla Mae Nash's older brother beat their drunken father to death with a baseball bat in order to save both their lives. Now 13 years old, Charla has finally moved on, about to be adopted by retired FBI profiler Pierce Quincy and his partner Rainey Connor. Charla loves one thing best about her new family. They are all experts on monsters. Then the call comes in. A double murder at a gas station, followed by reports of an armed suspect shooting his way through the wilds of Oregon. As Quincy and Randy race to assist, they are forced to confront mounting evidence. The shooter may very well be Charla's older brother, Telly Ray Nash, and it appears his killing spree has just begun. So her brother's a murderer, possibly.
Boy!
As the clock winds down on the massive hunt for Telly, Quincy and Randy must answer two critical questions. Why, after 8 years, has this young man started killing again? And what does this mean for Charla? Once upon a time, Charla's big brother saved her life. Now she has two questions of her own. Is her brother a hero or a killer? And how much will it cost her new family before they learn the final shattering truth? Because Charla knows all too well, the biggest danger is the one standing right behind you.
My fourth pick is The Lost Man by Jane Harper. This was published back in 2019. Two brothers meet in the remote Australian outback when the third brother is found dead in this stunning standalone from Jane Harper. Brothers Nathan and Bub Bright meet for the first time in months at the remote fence line separating their cattle ranches in the lonely outback. Their third brother, Cameron, lies dead at their feet. In an isolated belt of Australia, their homes a 3-hour drive apart, the brothers were one another's nearest neighbors, even being that far apart. Cameron was the middle child, the one who ran the family homestead, but something made him head out alone under the unrelenting sun. Nathan, Bub, and Nathan's son returned to Cameron's ranch and to those left behind by his passing, his wife, his daughters, and his mother, as well as their longtime employees and 2 recently hired seasonal workers. While they grieve Cameron's loss, suspicion starts to take hold, and Nathan is forced to examine secrets the family would rather leave in the past. Because if someone forced Cameron to his death, the isolation of the outback leaves very few suspects. You may be familiar with Jane Harper. She's the best-selling author of The Dry and Force of Nature, and this is a standalone from her. So if you want to check out this one, The Lost Man.
My last pick for today is called Girl A by Abigail Dean. Lex Grace doesn't want to think about her family. She doesn't want to think about growing up in her parents' house of horrors. And she doesn't want to think about her identity as Girl A, the girl who escaped, the eldest sister who freed her older brother, and 4 younger siblings. It's been easy enough to avoid her parents. Her father never made it out of the house of horrors he created, and her mother spent the rest of her life behind bars. But when her mother dies in prison and leaves Lex and her siblings the family home, once again, she can't run from her past any longer. Together with her sister Evie, Lex intends to turn the House of Horrors into a force for good. But first, she must come to terms with her siblings and the childhood they shared, which sounds pretty intense.
My last pick is Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese. This was published in 2009. This is a riveting first novel by this author, an enthralling family saga of Africa and America, doctors and patients, exile and home. Marion and Shiva Stone are twin brothers born of a secret union between a beautiful Indian nun and a brash British surgeon at a mission hospital. Orphaned by their mother's death in childbirth and their father's disappearance, bound together by their connection and a shared fascination with medicine, the twins come of age as Ethiopia hovers on the brink of revolution. Yet it will be love, not politics, their passion for the same woman that will tear them apart and force Marion, fresh out of med school, to flee his homeland. He makes his way to America, finding refuge in his work as an intern at an underfunded, overcrowded New York City hospital. When the past catches up to him, nearly destroying him, Marion must entrust his life to the 2 men he thought he trusted least in his world, the surgeon father who abandoned him and the twin brother who betrayed him. It's an unforgettable journey into one man's remarkable life and an epic story about the power, intimacy, and curious beauty of the world of healing others. So, Cutting for Stone wasn't an author that I was familiar with for this one.
I feel like I recognize the title, though.
Yeah, I did. It comes up on a lot of lists for us. I didn't include any nonfiction picks this week, but we do have a book in the system called The Brontes, if you want to read about some famous sisters. Juliet Barker wrote this. This was published back a few years. This was published in 1995. But The Brontes, Wild Genius on the Moors, the story of a literary family. So if nonfiction's more your thing, you may like this.
Well, we hope we gave you some ideas of what to read next, and to remember to say hello to your sibling.
Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share. We always like to hear from you. We're going to take a break for the next 2 Fridays. The library's going to be closed on those 2 Fridays, so you won't see us for a few weeks, but then you'll see us back, I think it's the last Friday of April. So until then, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.